Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today's story: Peacock and Owl. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there was a magnificent and proud peacock named Percy. He lived in the royal gardens of the king's palace, where he displayed his vibrant and mesmerizing plumage for all to admire. Percy was convinced that he was the most beautiful and regal creature in the entire kingdom. Every day, Percy would strut around the palace grounds, showing off his shimmering feathers, and boasting about his beauty. He would tell all the other birds in the kingdom about his remarkable features and how he deserved to be the king of all birds. The other birds found Percy's arrogance quite annoying, and they began to avoid him. One day, word of Percy's claim reached the ears of the wise old owl, who served as the king's trusted advisor. The owl decided to teach Percy a lesson about humility and true leadership. He called a meeting of all the birds in the kingdom and asked Percy to present his case for becoming the king of birds. Percy stood before the assembled birds and boasted about his radiant plumage, his graceful walk, and his superior beauty. The other birds listened politely, though they were growing tired of his self-centeredness. When Percy finished speaking, the wise old owl addressed the gathering. He said, "My fellow birds, beauty is indeed a wonderful thing, and Percy's feathers are undoubtedly stunning. However, being a king requires more than just physical appearance. A true king must possess wisdom, compassion, and the ability to lead and care for his subjects." The owl continued, "I suggest we put Percy to the test. We will organize a competition where each bird can showcase their unique talents and qualities. The bird who demonstrates the best leadership and empathy will be crowned the king of birds." The birds agreed to the owl's idea, and the competition began. Each bird took turns displaying their skills, from the nightingale's beautiful song to the eagle's soaring abilities. Percy, despite his initial reluctance, decided to participate too. Throughout the competition, Percy realized that the other birds had their own exceptional qualities. He witnessed the kindness of the robin, the wisdom of the owl, and the bravery of the hawk. As he observed the different birds and their unique strengths, Percy began to understand the importance of humility and recognizing the value in others. In the end, it was not the bird with the most extravagant plumage who won the title of the king of birds. The wise old owl, who had shown wisdom, fairness, and humility throughout the competition, was crowned as the rightful king. Percy, though disappointed, learned a valuable lesson about the true nature of leadership. He acknowledged his arrogance and vowed to be more respectful and humble in the future. From that day on, Percy no longer sought to be the king but instead focused on being a good friend and neighbor to all the birds in the kingdom. And so, the wise old owl ruled as the king of birds, guiding the kingdom with wisdom and compassion, while Percy, the once proud peacock, learned that true greatness came from within and was not merely based on outward appearances. From then on, they both lived harmoniously, setting an example for all the other birds in the kingdom to follow. And they all lived happily ever after.
Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today's story named as The Vain Jackdaw and His Borrowed Feathers. In a lush forest filled with vibrant trees and bustling wildlife, lived a jackdaw, a sleek and intelligent bird. This jackdaw was known far and wide for its glossy black feathers and its cleverness. However, it was also known for its vanity and desire to be admired by all. One day, while perched on a branch, the jackdaw noticed a group of colorful and elegant peacocks strutting around, displaying their magnificent plumage. Envious of their beauty, the jackdaw wished to have feathers as stunning as theirs. It yearned to be the center of attention and admired by all the creatures in the forest. Determined to transform its appearance, the jackdaw hatched a plan. It decided to borrow some feathers from the peacocks, hoping that their splendor would make it the most admired bird in the forest. The jackdaw approached the peacocks with a humble request, explaining its desire to borrow a few feathers. The peacocks, amused by the jackdaw's request, agreed to help. They lent the jackdaw a handful of their most dazzling feathers, each one more vibrant and beautiful than the last. The jackdaw carefully attached the borrowed feathers to its own wings and body, admiring itself in a nearby pond. It felt a surge of pride, believing that it now rivaled the peacocks in beauty. As the jackdaw strutted through the forest, it received the attention it so desperately craved. Other animals marveled at its newfound appearance and complimented its radiant feathers. The jackdaw basked in the adoration, feeling a sense of accomplishment it had never experienced before. However, the borrowed feathers were not meant for the jackdaw, and it didn't take long for trouble to arise. As it preened and posed, showing off its plumage, a gust of wind suddenly swept through the forest. The borrowed feathers were light and delicate, and they fluttered away, leaving the jackdaw bare and exposed. Embarrassed and ashamed, the jackdaw looked around, realizing that its borrowed beauty had vanished in an instant. The other animals, once admiring, now stared in disbelief and mockery. The peacocks, though elegant, were not known for their kindness, and they chuckled at the jackdaw's predicament. Defeated and humbled, the jackdaw slunk away to a quiet corner of the forest, its pride wounded. It reflected on its foolishness and the consequences of its vanity. It realized that true beauty came from within and that trying to be something it wasn't only led to disappointment. As time passed, the jackdaw's feathers grew back, but it had learned a valuable lesson. It embraced its own unique appearance and talents, finding contentment in being itself. It no longer sought the admiration of others, but instead focused on building genuine connections and friendships based on character and kindness. And so, the jackdaw's story spread throughout the forest as a cautionary tale of the dangers of vanity and the importance of staying true to oneself. It served as a reminder that borrowed beauty is fleeting, while genuine qualities endure and make one truly special.
The Dog and His Master Dinner. Once upon a time, in a quaint little cottage on the outskirts of a bustling town, lived a kind-hearted man and his loyal companion, a clever and faithful dog. The man and the dog shared a deep bond, and they had been through many adventures together. One evening, as the sun began to set and the sky painted itself with hues of orange and pink, the man prepared to have his dinner. He had cooked a delicious and hearty stew, filled with vegetables, tender meat, and savory spices. The aroma filled the air, making the dog's mouth water. The man sat down at the wooden table, placing the steaming pot of stew in front of him. Just as he was about to take his first bite, the dog sat down beside him, wagging its tail expectantly. The man looked at the dog and said, "I'm sorry, my friend, but this meal is for me. You have your own food in your bowl." The dog's eyes pleaded with the man, and it let out a soft whimper. It had been a long day, and the smell of the stew was irresistible. The man's heart softened as he gazed into the dog's eyes. He sighed and said, "All right, just a little bit for you. But remember, this is a special treat." The man carefully ladled a small portion of the stew into a bowl and placed it on the floor for the dog. The dog eagerly dug in, its tail wagging with joy as it savored the delicious flavors. As the man continued to eat, he watched his loyal companion enjoy the stew. He couldn't help but smile at the dog's delight. He realized that sharing a meal with his faithful friend brought him more happiness than enjoying it alone. Once the dog finished its portion, it sat contentedly by the man's side, licking its lips in satisfaction. The man looked down at the dog and said, "You know, my dear friend, sharing my dinner with you made it even more special. Your happiness is worth more to me than any meal." From that day on, whenever the man sat down to eat, he would always set aside a small portion for his dog. They would enjoy their meals together, side by side, savoring not just the flavors of the food, but the warmth of their friendship. And so, the man and his faithful dog continued to share their meals and their lives, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Their story became a heartwarming example of the power of kindness, companionship, and the joy of sharing even the simplest of pleasures with those we love.